What if I told you that your greatest achievement might still be ahead of you? That at 54, 64, or even 76, you could have your breakthrough moment. That the things that you've been putting off, the dreams deferred, the skills unexplored, the confidence ignored, isn't too late. 3, 2, 1. That countdown is burned into my memory. I can remember coming home at night and listening to my grandfather, who had just arrived from the United Nations, and he would be working with covering the United Nations with the National Black Network. And he would take the gator clips and attach them to his phone. And he would send his report over the telephone lines in the 60s to the National Black Network. And he would share his stories with them, and they would be on the air. But before every broadcast, I would hear the same thing. 3, 2, 1. You see, that countdown became my inheritance. And it was because of who he was as a reporter, it really amplified my understanding of what it meant for second chances. And my grandfather, with his profession as a reporter, and more importantly, as the first African-American to be a news reporter for ABC News, it really expanded my horizons. He proved this in 1962 when he became ABC News' first Black network correspondent. He was 54 years old. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking in today's world, 54 is when many people are hitting their career strides. But in 1962, most people thought that your big days were behind you. But not my grandfather. He decided that there was a lot that he could still do at this point in time. You know, statistics show us that 35% of new businesses in the US right now are started by people over 50. That in the UK alone, 1 million people over 60 are self-employed. And that 1 in 3 Americans at 65 plus are still working, not just surviving, but thriving. And you know, we know that ageism is a big thing in this country, and we always talk and joke about senior moments, or the fact that, you know, we get surprised if somebody over 60 starts something new. But the fact is that science says, and I couldn't believe this when I heard it, was that after 50, people actually report greater life satisfaction than at any other time since childhood. And so, you know, aging doesn't actually close doors, it opens different ones. And so my grandfather's story is really unique, and it took a winding circular path to get where he got. And so, you know, in 1931, he graduated from the University of Pittsburgh and really dreamed of going to law school and getting a law degree. But, you know, he had some challenges. He was facing 2 issues. He was facing the Great Depression, and he was dealing with racism. And he shared a story where he said that one time he went to his professor to ask for a higher grade. And his professor responded back to him, "Mr. Good, you don't expect to get the same grade that a white student gets, do you?" It was 1931. So he said, okay, he decided maybe law school is not for me. And so he was denied that door, and he entered another door, and he found a new path. He ended up becoming a mentor to young men with the YMCA. He also went on to be hired by the Pittsburgh Courier, which at the time was one of the nation's leading black newspapers and still is. And he covered the South and covered Jim Crow firsthand for the Pittsburgh Courier. And then before time went too long, he found himself on the radio. Pittsburgh's KQV hired him as the first black voice on their station. And then if that wasn't enough, he decided, you know what, I'm gonna keep going. And he joined his sister, Mary D, for the first ever brother-sister radio program in Pittsburgh. And that program was important for a number of reasons, the least of which was that it gave African Americans at that point in time in history a voice in mainstream media. And you know, he went on to do that. He was arrested for reporting police brutality, and people just trusted his voice, and so it continued to give him a platform. And so, in 1962, ABC News had decided it was finally time to hire a black correspondent. And they actually even went to Jackie Robinson and said, Jackie, do you know somebody that we might be able to hire for this role? Jackie knew somebody because he was friends with my grandfather. And not just my grandfather, but a multitude of people came to apply for this job. They all went to New York City. There were people with significant journalism experience. There were even people that had some TV experience. But my grandfather, who, being who he was, decided, you know what? I'm just going to go in here and give it my best. And so when it came time to take his audition, they offered him written copy, and he said, no, thank you. He walked over to the copier machine where news reports were coming out, and he wrote his own copy. And that courage landed him the job. And so in 1962, he became the first African-American correspondent on any network, period. And it was a big deal. And so he continued to go, and ABC made a significant impact. And just a few months later, he was hired in April of 1962, and in October of 1962, something amazing happened. The Cuban Missile Crisis. And it was at a time when the US and the Soviet Union had come to a standstill. And my grandfather found himself in the middle of it when his colleague, a white reporter, was on a weekend hunting trip with his son. And so the only person at the United Nations to cover the news when it was breaking was my grandfather. And he delivered the news to millions, introducing himself, where people wrote into ABC saying, who was that black man on the television? And it was at that point in time that he was able to really make a profound impact with his writing, with his journalism, and he opened himself up to the whole United States. And then he continued covering the United Nations for ABC News. He also covered all of the civil rights leaders, Malcolm X, his funeral, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral, the funeral for Robert F. Kennedy. And he worked until he was 64 when mandatory retirement forced him out. And that was how they used to do it back then. And so for my grandfather, his second act became his defining act. So I want to just tell you that a lot of people think that great work only belongs to the young. But there are other stories to be told, and one I want to share with you is Diana Nyad. And for those of you that don't know, Diana Nyad, at the age of 64, after 4 failed attempts, swam from Cuba to Florida in 53 hours without a shark cage. I know it's crazy, but she did it. And she proved that basically that physical limits are often mental ones. Sorry, a lot of you know this person, Colonel Harlan Sanders. At 62, after a failed restaurant attempt, actually multiple failed restaurant attempts, he took his fried chicken recipe, those 11 herbs and spices, on the road, often sleeping in his car. By his 70s, Kentucky Fried Chicken became a global brand. He showed that failure can be the setup for success. Nelson Mandela, after 27 years in prison on Robben Island, he became South Africa's first black president at the age of 76, guiding the country through its early stages of democracy. He demonstrated that wisdom comes with time. And then finally, if I haven't made my case enough, Anna Mary Robertson Moses, AKA Grandma Moses. In her late 70s, arthritis ended her embroidery career, so she picked up painting. By the age of 80, she had her first solo exhibit in Manhattan, in New York City. And by the time she died, she had created over 1,500 works, and she was 101 years old. She was proof that limitations can spark new possibilities. Different fields, different challenges, same truth. It's never too late. And research shows that people with positive beliefs about aging live on average 7.5 years longer than those with negative ones. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. Belief matters, mindset matters, the data says so. So listen, something today is unprecedented is happening. The tools that once required entire teams, research, writing, design, marketing, now fit in your pocket. With AI, what used to take hours can now take minutes. A 72-year-old attorney that I know runs circles around his associates that are half his age, filing legal precedents one at a time. And then at 51, Bridget Johns launched To and From, an AI gifting platform that rivals major e-commerce brands. And they show the proof that it's never too late to start something new. So what about you? Here's how you begin. The same countdown that guided my grandfather. 3, reflect. Write down 3 things you've been saying someday I'll about, I don't know, maybe starting a podcast, writing a book, or learning a new language. 2, reframe. Pick one and flip the script. Instead of, I'm too old, ask, what problem can I solve that someone half my age hasn't even lived through yet? Your wrinkles are your credentials. And 1, reignite. This week, not someday, this week. Take 1 micro step. Record a 2-minute voice memo. Finish lesson 1 in your favorite language app of choice, or spend 30 minutes researching a competitor. It's never too late to get something started. And so let me be honest. You know, this isn't just theory for me. I started podcasting after 40, and it has become one of the most meaningful parts of my work. It has given me an opportunity to amplify voices, to tell great stories, and to build community. And so now I've decided that I'm writing a book, and that's part of my personal what's next. And so, you know, it's important for us to all kind of think about this. Why is it important? The idea is that I'm not just talking about my grandfather, I'm not just talking about history, I'm talking about me, and I'm talking about you, with the reminder that it's never too late for us to do the thing that we're called to do. So I want to leave you with this. Your calling, it doesn't expire. Your second act could be your greatest act. And I want you guys to all connect with me right now as we do this in one accord. I want you to count it down with me. 3, 2, 1. Your time isn't running out, it's just beginning. Thank you.